I know that Kevin covered the millennials 17 and up. And what I want to concentrate on a little bit with this is 17 and down. We have early college high school students, we have STEM students. The face of our campus is changing a little bit. Okay. So I'll just give the attribution right up front. As I told you before, we were invited to KISD to see a speaker that they had gotten. His name is Mark Perna with tsfresults.com. That's his company and his address. And he gave a very interesting perspective on what he learned about 0 to 17 students. He has spoken at, actually he spoke at Notre Dame and several of the Ivy League colleges. And he's very hard to get, but we're going to hope that maybe we can get him for in-service if he's available. I'm not sure what it costs. Huh? How much? 10,000?
So he'll be staying home.
Well, here's the deal. If with in-service we're into a new fiscal year, if we can get Perkins funding, it's possible that we could pay for that. So it's certainly not going to be the same to hear me brief some of his thoughts rather than hearing him. But I thought he had some interesting perspectives and interesting things to say. So I just kind of want to start with this little thing. These were some facts that he gave out. And there's a blank there after each of those numbers. You have a choice of trillion, billion, or million. So 1.4 trillion student loan debt, the second largest debt in the U.S. How about the second one? 154
billion.
Oh, billion.
Billion are over 90 days in default. And how about the third one? 11.7 million finish college and they have a job that's not related to their degree. And so as he was talking about this, he said the interesting thing is that a lot of kids just don't even know why they're going to college. They just think, okay, maybe that's just the thing to do. Or maybe they think that there's not even a chance at college for them. But of the ones that get here, of the ones that are here in the community college, his question to us was how we connect the dots between why they're coming to college. And we all know there's a bigger picture with college. We all know with liberal arts, it makes a civilized society. There's a lot of other things. But certainly one goal of going to college is to be able to be employable. To get a job, something that's going to make you happy, something that you can make a living. And somehow those dots are hard to connect. A lot of the kids that come in just don't quite get that. They don't get that there's a connection. And so his point to us was, it's really part of our responsibility, and it would be great if we could figure out how to connect some of those dots for the students that come here. 0 to 17, the Z generation. So Kevin already talked about the difference between Gen Y and Gen Z and the millennials. You can see here, if you look at these as two columns, Y likes to spend money and Z prefers to save. And the thing is that a lot of us kind of group Z in with the millennials, and we think, okay, they've got the same kind of goals and the same kind of desires and the same kind of tendencies as those millennials. But actually, they're very, very different in a lot of ways. They worry about the economy. They worry about ecology. You know, they grew up having to cope with a lot of different things. They're really not into texting. They're really not so text dependent. And excuse me, as the millennials are. They don't like to be tracked. They're not into social media as much. They really want social groups. These people, and he called his the Y generation, and it's funny because Mark called the Z generation the Y generation, and he said it's very, very important that they understand the big picture about things. They need to know why, and sometimes they come off as kind of being smart mouth, because when you say something, they'll go, well, why didn't you do it this way? But they're not being smart. They're actually just trying to figure out a better way to do things, which they do all the time. They're looking for the better way, the faster way, and they're looking for things that really could be of great value to an employer if we give them a shot, if we give them a chance, if we help them decide what it is that they need, that they want to do. Not what they need to do, what they want to do. What is it that they want to do? What are they interested in? Help them home in on how what they learn here at a community college connects to some kind of employment. And it could be that we need to show them some exit plans. You can exit at different stages for different kinds of employment. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what kind of work relationship do you think they're looking for when they're at work or when they're in school? What relationships are they pursuing? Collaborative, interactive. That's what they want. They want that not just in school, but they're looking for that. They're looking for a job that gives them that. And I'm sure that companies like Google and some of the other young companies are very attracted to them for that reason, because they're more accepting and collaborative about how they do their work. What kind of structure do you think they're looking for? Pods? They are looking for pods. They do work well in teams, but actually they want a formal structure. They don't want to sit at home in their pajamas. They don't want, they're not ones that are wanting to find the easy way and want a loose and easy job. They actually, when they interviewed a bunch of them, they want to get up and go to work. They want structure in their lives. So it's very, very different between generations, and I thought that was kind of interesting. And the most important thing is they want respect. They don't want their ideas to be poo-pooed. They really want someone to listen to them and to give them some kind of acknowledgement of the things that they can contribute either to a classroom or to a work environment. They are absolutely the most entrepreneurial generation that we've seen so far, according to the data, but they're still young. So the biggest challenge, according to the speaker, was how to get them to want something. Somehow we have to provide the motivation, and I think what Kevin said was, very helpful in talking about creating hope. Creating hope, creating motivation, creating encouragement, cheering them on so that they want to do something, because if they can figure out what they want to do, then they can figure out how to get there. They can figure out the how-to behind it. So some of the learning needs of Z's, I won't read them all, but you can kind of see them, are the same things that they're going to want when they go into the workplace. Now, I guess how I want this to be a discussion instead of a presentation is, I want to know from you, I would like to hear some ideas about how we connect the dots. What could we be doing that perhaps we're not doing now? Or perhaps we are doing it now and you want to share that. How do we connect the dots between what they're learning in school and what path they're taking and where they think they want to go? How do we let them know what's out there? How do we let them know what's available? Now, what if they have no idea what they want to do? Think about your general studies people and your interdisciplinary studies people. The interdisciplinary studies people are thinking, okay, yeah, we're going to get everything that transfers to a 4-year and I'll decide later. Some of them know what they want to do, but a lot of them do not know. And I have to say, when I started college, I was going to be an interpreter at the UN. I really didn't have a good grasp of what it was I wanted to do. I mean, I just kind of grasped on to ideas. I think like most college women, for some reason, we all wanted to be oceanographers. I don't know why. But that's what everybody wanted to be when I was in college. And you know, maybe that was a really good goal. Maybe that was a realistic goal. I definitely had an interest in that, but nobody connected the dots for me. I really didn't know how to get there. So I'm gonna throw this question out there. Does anybody wanna make any comments, suggestions, things you do in class? This is Pathways, Ellen. Anything you think we could be doing that we're not doing now? Anything that you do in class? Yes?
Ross, I don't know if this is the direction you really want to go with this, but I know in the past, like our MLT programs had like an open house on like a Friday. You know, if there was a way that we could get more students through, just so that they can even see that program and what it's about, it's a very interesting program. It's a 2-year program too, and people can actually get a job. You could say the same thing for histology, which is actually an even better, you know, better paying direction to go in. And so I've thought about having I've talked with our chemistry and microbiology and of course in the biology courses, if we could somehow, you know, do something to get our students to go through the open house on Fridays, some little 5-point extra credit. So that's, you know, a thought that I've had. I'm sure there are more creative and probably better things to do. And another thing.
No, I think that's a good idea.
Another thing we've talked about, I have done in the past also, is having our students go through Texas A&M at Central Texas so they can see what those labs are like and see what they do offer and listen to the professors over there. I know Dr. Foskett and I met back, I guess in the spring, with something you put together so that our anatomy and physiology students could be exposed to the exercise physiology program that they're putting together over at TAMU CT. So I think sometimes maybe if they, you know, we can kind of show them a little bit of what the future holds. If they're not real sure, you know, maybe some of those kinds of things can help a little bit. But I just think campus-wide, if we could get more people through, more students through these opportunities, like MLT, histology, and also seeing what's over at TAMU CT, I think that, you know, that can be helpful. I had several students come back to me later and say, hey, I'm over here at TAMU CT because of you had us go over there and meet with Dr. Erlinson when we went through the labs, and they saw what they have in chemistry over there in biology as well.
Hi, I'm Viola. I'm the director of the Massage Therapy School in the Continuing Education Department. I always start with the end in mind. First of all, one of the very first presentations that I give to all of the students is an overview of the career of massage therapy and what their goal is at the end of this program. And then at different times, you know, throughout the course, I'll stop and I'll plug back in to remember what your goal is. What are you trying to accomplish here? And I bring that up several times when I'm in the classroom. What are you trying to accomplish? Because I don't want them losing sight of their goal and stopping halfway and quitting before they're finished. So at the end of their course, they're required to do an internship. We just did clinicals at the VA at the domiciliary for the first time in the last cohort that just graduated, and the transformation in the students was phenomenal. Because I have such passion for veterans, it's a very emotional experience for me, but the transformation that it made in the students, to realize that here they were, they had their basic licensure, they were just learning how to touch people, and they made such a transformation in the lives of these veterans who came from north of Waco, by the way, to make these appointments, to get a chance to have a massage. The students stepped up to the plate. It was their first day of internship, their first day of clinicals, and they stepped up to the plate like a team of professionals that blew me away. And they just did a phenomenal job. So the transformation that the clinicals and the internship makes in the students was just incredible. So I think that that's very important.
Thank you, Viola. Tammy, didn't you have a similar experience with your EMT? The one thing I wanted to point out that he pointed out was that when it comes between career and lifestyle, what do you think is the most important thing? For Gen Z, lifestyle. They don't care about the money. They really care about being able to do something that supports the lifestyle that they choose. That's very, very important. And Mark, the guy that we went to see, probably trademarked this, this particular phrase about the light at the end of the tunnel. And actually what he means by that is that as students are going through classes, it would be helpful if we could say, okay, well, you've decided you want to be this. Well, you're 1/3 of the way there. You've gotten this much done. Okay, now you've done a half. You're half there. If you can get this degree, you'll be 3/4 there. And to try to give them some measures to encourage them along, that they're on the right path. Yes?
I was just going to say, or choose a different tunnel. Like you just said that in the beginning you wanted to be something. I wanted to be a doctor, a medical doctor. You know, Grey's Anatomy had just came out. I was like, I could totally do that. So, and then it wasn't for me. So just to realize, I think some of the more applicable experiences that I've had is like in my math for a teacher's class, and they come to me at the end saying, I can't do this. I can't stand up in front of a group and teach them. And that's okay too, to tell them that that's okay. This is where you're supposed to discover that. Don't become a teacher and be a teacher for 10 years and then realize you didn't love it or realize that wasn't for you.
He quoted one teacher that he said, told them to decide what it is they wanted to do, and they could change that every day.
Every day, yeah.
Every day if they wanted to change that, but they should go ahead and decide what they wanted to do and go explore that. And explore all the different exit points along a path. That it could be an entry-level career and then or a technical career or a professional career, but that they might be on the same path, but there might be a lot of different things that they want to do, and maybe they don't want to do anything for very long. Maybe they want to do something for a while and then do something else and do something else. So anyway, it was an interesting perspective. He did give a lot of positive comments about the generations, because he said they get a very negative rating. A lot of people complain about, you know, oh, they don't have an attention span but 8 seconds, and they're picking up a device every 7 seconds, and it's true, they do that, but that's just part of their personality. They just have a lot to offer, and we can help them along their way, and I'm hoping that we do and can connect those dots for them, because part of the reason that they're here is to find a way to support themselves and have the life that they want. So I'm going to turn it over to the next group. Ms. Jackie Thomas and Dean Starkey and Chief Wheeler. They're going to talk about Title IX.
As part of the presentation, we are going to introduce you to the Title IX chain of command. I am Julie Starkey. I am, yes, the Dean for Student Success, but I'm also the Title IX Coordinator for Students. That is new, it was Christy Shank, and I've taken over that role. But as part of today's presentation, we are going to introduce, because it's very important that you know who all of us are, but I'm not going to introduce yet, because we'll have an opportunity as we go through that. So what is Title IX? I'm sure most everybody knows or thinks of it as being probably more in athletic departments, trying to do equal access for men and women and have access to athletic programs and things like that. I think that's where it started, but that's not really what we're going to spend a lot of time talking about here. It has been in the news a lot lately. I know you've heard about it. Baylor down the street has got some issues going on. I think Texas A&M even has some issues. So it's there. It's through the Department of Education. It's enforced by the Office of Civil Rights, and I'm just going to read what it states. No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. And this is what really comes into play for us. It's really the sexual harassment, those kinds of issues that come up for us, anything dealing with sexual misconduct. That's why it's become a big issue. CTC, our policy is right in line with Title IX. We do not allow discrimination of any form. That's pretty basic. That's what all of our policies have. We don't allow any kind of sexual misconduct. The policies state that too, that whether it's dating violence, stalking, sexual harassment, sexual assault, anything like that. So they're all right in line. Why is it important? Two main reasons that we want to focus on. Any student or faculty, staff, employee here at the institution that is found responsible for a Title IX violation can face discipline from the college, in addition to any civil or criminal penalties that may fall. But the bigger thing that Title IX requires of us is to provide support and resources to any person that is dealing with a sexual misconduct issue, whether they be a respondent or a complainant. That's really the bigger issue. And that's why we have a Title IX chain, because that's what we are all here to do, is to provide those resources. And what we really want to get across to you guys is there are very specific things that we have to do that Title IX requires of us. We need you guys to refer those kinds of situations to those of us that are in the chain. Don't take responsibility for those things in the classroom, but you must share them. You can't sit on them. And the reason that you don't want to do it is because I don't think you want to be in the position of having to do the things that we have to do. We have what's called a rights and responsibilities, a rights and options document that has to be given to anybody that is a respondent or a complainant. And we have to make sure that those people get that document and they understand what the resources are. Not only if we're going to adjudicate or do something about it, but we also have to provide interim measures for students, for faculty, staff. All of that has to be coordinated through this. And so it's very important that as faculty that you let us know what it is. But again, I want to stress that it's really about the resources. We know of the resources and we can get them hooked up. We are not trying to tell anybody what to do, because these are very complicated issues. We are here to help and support. I'm going to turn it over to Jackie Thomas in HR, and she's going to talk about another layer that has come up, and that's our campus safety authorities.
Hello everyone, how are you doing? Good, glad to hear it. Okay, I'm going to discuss what is a CSA. It's a CTC official who has the responsibility for student and campus activities. A CSA must report crimes. Why are they important? A victim of a crime may be more inclined to report the crime to someone other than law enforcement. And the Clery Act requires that we designate CSAs. What you also want to make sure is when you're reporting this, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to mess up. Oh, we're going in here? Oh, sorry. Okay. CSAs at CTC, they're the Campus Title IX coordinators, faculty advisors to clubs, director of HR, the director of student and employee assistance programs, the campus law enforcement, as well as director of student life and activities, the EEO coordinator, resident hall managers and RAs, as well as the site coordinators. What is the responsibility of the faculty and staff at CTC, which is very important? Faculty should report all incidents where potential crime is involved and let the CSA and police take over. What you don't want to do, don't create a liability or exposure to yourself. And basically what that's saying is, you may have someone that may come to you and say, hey, I want to tell you something and I want you to keep this confidential. We can never guarantee confidentiality because you don't know what that person is going to tell you. You're obligated if they come to you and say, hey, this act has just happened, I've just been raped, or someone made a sexual comment, whatever the case may be, you're obligated. If you're in a situation to where you can't basically hand walk the person to where they need to go, make sure you get the information, but you also need to follow through and follow up to say, hey, I sent Jack or Jane to see you in reference to this situation. I want to make sure that they got here. If they say, hey, I never heard from that person, you need to fill them in and let them know what was reported to you and make sure that you provide all the information. When they're talking to you, make sure that you show compassion and concern for the person. Listen, get all the information that you can from the person, and make sure that you follow through with the CSA or to the campus police. Don't take things into your own hands by saying, hey, I used to be a counselor, or I know somebody that was raped, let me tell you what you need to do. Put them into the hands of those people that have the knowledge to be able to provide the support and information that they need. And we all have an obligation to report it. No matter what, no matter who it is, you are obligated to report it. Who to report to? The first person the list of is Ms. Holly Jordan, and I want to be clear, it doesn't have to be, if you're a student and you see that it's an employee, you can still go to Ms. Holly Jordan even though it says employees, or you can still go to Ms. Starkey if you're an employee even if it's students. So just make sure that you find one of these people as soon as possible, or the student can refer to Ms. Jordan, to myself, Jacqueline Thomas, to Chief Mary Wheeler, as well as Ms. Mary Selden Vargas and Julie Starkey. Very important. Okay. And now Chief Wheeler will take over from here.
Good afternoon. I'm going to go over a few of the reporting avenues for students and employees when it comes to these Title IX violations. Now, as you may or may not know, we have an online reporting form for sexual misconduct, sexual harassment. And if you go to the CTC main page, you scroll all the way down to the bottom, it says sexual. I wrote it down so you'd know for sure, because I wasn't sure. It says under resources, report sexual misconduct. If you click on that link, it takes you right to the online report, and a few questions, submit, and then that report will go to one of the CSAs to investigate. I think all the reports filtered through myself, and then if it's something that they don't want law enforcement involved, then I will refer it back to probably Julie Starkey as the Title IX coordinator. They can report it directly to the campus police office. Again, they don't have to involve law enforcement, and I think this is where a lot of schools get kind of caught up in, you know, people reporting crimes that didn't meet the elements of an offense, but it may have been a Title IX violation, and that's where this comes into play, having trained specific CSAs on campus, so if they don't report to law enforcement, they can report to someone else and not even get the law enforcement involved. And you're going in the Title IX chain of command can take a report for sexual misconduct. Do you have a question?
Yes, and I might have missed it, I'm sorry, but as an instructor or as an employee of CTC, if somebody comes to us and reports an incident, can we access that? Are we absolved of responsibility if we do that form and give the information, or do we have to verbally call you up or email you?
So what we don't want, and this is what we see happen, is Mary Jones comes to you and reports that she's been sexually assaulted, and you say, go online to this and make this report. They don't do it. And then a year down the road, it happens again, and they said, well, I reported it to my instructor last semester, and there's no audit, there's no paperwork audit of it. So what I would say in that case is take all the information down. You're the first point of contact for this student. Take all the information down and either send an email to myself, campus.police, Maricela Vargas, Jackie Thomas, one of the CSAs that are in this group, and let us do the investigation.
But we don't.
We don't really want to refer them to the online link, correct?
Well, I mean, you can, you mean the students? The only problem is that's, it is anonymous because by law we have to provide an anonymous. And so we can't do any follow-up with the student. Now, if you wanted to use that link to report it, you're fine to do that. You're fine to do that, but please don't do it anonymously because that, you're not helping us. You have a responsibility to let us know who you are so that I can follow up with you, or Chief Wheeler, or whoever is in the chain to say, can you fill us in a little bit more? It is a way, but know that if you do that, we certainly probably are going to follow back up.
Okay, so my error, I guess.
I mean, you can. I'm
On
just
behalf
saying.
of the student and the instructor can report it with the online link. And they can report directly to the Department of Education. And of course, we have a responsibility to report under Title IX, and telling a student, go see so-and-so, or, you know, this is not my thing, go to the campus police, that's not gonna cut it anymore. We have to have, from the point of contact to an administrator, and your administrators as faculty member, and then go forward with the investigation. Anybody have any questions about the reporting avenues? So we also have a program on campus that some people have no idea we have. It's the Student and Employee Assistance Programs / Substance Resource Center. And what I like to call it the SEAP, Student and Employee Assistance Program, and I'm not good with acronyms, but what they offer free mental health counseling, drug abuse counseling, Overeaters Anonymous, all kind of counseling for employees and students on campus at no cost to them. Now, they have relocated to building 158, which is the little house next to the old HR building between the planetarium and what they call Eagle Hall now, that little house. That's where they're located. That is an on-campus counseling center. It's a gun-free location by law, but we can refer people to them, and we refer a lot of people. Any student that gives them trouble on campus, they have to go to counseling. If it's anger in one of your classes, they get referred for its counseling sessions. But they also do assessments and referrals and intervention. And the referrals can be to off-campus agencies also. They don't just refer them on campus to other people. But the SEAP is a very good resource, and the number is 526-1166. Dr. Mahone Lewis and Nadia Filimonova are, right? Filimonova? Woo! They're the ones that run the SEAP Center, and they are the only two counselors that we have on campus. And like I said, that's building 158, and that's right next to the Eagle Hall. It looks like Granny's little house. Bystander intervention. And in Clery and in Title IX, there are requirements for you as a bystander. If you see a domestic situation or a sexual crime happening, you're obligated by law to intervene if you can do so safely. If you can't, my preference would be call 911, especially if it's occurring in your presence. Don't assume someone else is calling, take that action. If in doubt, contact a CSA, but I would say literally call the campus police if it's occurring in your presence. With the way the crime is around here, we don't want anybody pulling a gun on someone, especially as an instructor trying to intervene with two students having an argument. So call 911 if you see something like that happening. Bystander intervention, that's just another part of Title IX that is something that is required for us to go over with you. Consent is also something that we need to talk about, and you probably understand what consent is because you're over the age of 17. In the state of Texas, you can't give consent for sex under the age of 17. 17 and younger cannot consent to sex. Happens every day. Okay. I'm glad I don't have any kids under 17 because my hair would be gray or I wouldn't have any at all. Because it's like the norm nowadays in high schools and colleges. Everything revolves around sex. Oh my God. I'm going to die if I don't have sex, whatever. So a person giving consent must be 17 years of age or older. Step down. But what I'm saying is, I don't know. Consent is an affirmative, unambiguous, voluntary, conscious decision by each participant under the age of 17 cannot consent to sex. So if you have an ECHS student that comes to you and say, hey, last weekend I was at a friend's party, I think someone gave me alcohol and I might have been raped. That's the type of thing we're looking for that needs to be reported. Even if it happened off campus, we can take action here. We can provide them resources, whether they're on-campus resources or off-campus resources. We're going to watch a little short, cute video that we did in new student orientation, and it kind of goes over what consent is in case at this day and age and time and everything you didn't understand what consent was, but it's really cute. So.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. What do? You are walking in the center mall area by the fountain when you see a female student or employee, doesn't matter, sitting on a bench. She is crying and appears distraught. You approach the female and ask her if she is okay and if there's anything you can do to help. The female replies, "I was just raped on campus. What is your initial course of action?"
Okay, so yeah, so if you're walking, through the mall or through the building and you see, your first instinct when you see someone crying is like, you okay? Can I help you with something? And if they turn to you and they say, "I was just raped on campus," my first thought would be, what your first thought should be is, I'm going to call campus police because she said I was just raped on campus. So that would lead me to believe the perpetrator could still be around and this girl needs police intervention. So in that situation, you can call 911. That would justify calling 911, an incident that just occurred, a felony rape on campus. Thank you.
All right. We are the rollers. There you go. Okay, so our first speaker this morning is Sharon Davis, the new dean. New and old dean. Well, she's always been there, but she's a new dean for distance education and curriculum development. Talking to us about the OER project.
I'm Sharon Davis. I'm Dean of Distance Education and Curriculum Development. That just happened in July. But I'm still with the Distance Education and Educational Technology Department, affectionately known as DEET. So a lot of you already know me. I've been here forever. There was a reference yesterday to Dr. Morton, and I imagine a lot of you had no idea who that was, or you may have just seen the name someplace, like on Morton Hall, but I was here when he was here, okay? So that tells you something. Okay, I'm supposed to be talking about OERs. For those of you who haven't gotten involved, OERs just refers to open education resources. And those can be complete textbooks, they can be websites, they can be videos, they can be audios. It's kind of unlimited as to what they can be. The point is that we are trying to create our courses so that we can be competitive to increase enrollments, and we minimize costs to students while maintaining the quality of the courses. I think that that's really important. This came from the Chancellor. The Dean of Europe asked for criminal justice courses to be developed, and so those are on our schedule for development for OER. And then he asked the other campus deans what courses they needed to be created as OERs. And all of this was provided to me, and that's where we're going from there, okay? The campus deans, like Dean Garcia and Dean Anderson, came up with a lot of the core courses. They felt that those would have the greatest impact on the students and on minimizing cost. So our plan is to develop a minimum of 5 criminal justice courses and 5 core courses in each phase of the development. The process hasn't changed. We may be directed to do certain courses because it's coming down to us, but we try to work with the departments just like we've always done. We have a process in place for developing master courses, and a lot of you have already gone through that process. But the only difference is the resources. Before we were using publisher textbooks, and now we're using non-publisher textbooks. And the whole process of working with my staff, with my instructional design specialists, the course developers, my technical support people remains the same. The department chairs still have approval rights. We go to them to see if they have anybody who can work with us. We call them content reviewers. These are normally qualified, experienced faculty who have taught the course, and we work with them to develop the master courses. The courses then go through a 4-step QA process to make sure they're right, because once you deploy a course online across the world, if there's a mistake, it's hard to get it back, okay? So we want them to be as accurate as possible. But the final step is that the department chairs do the approval before those courses are distributed. Okay, like I said, the emphasis is on the criminal justice courses and the core courses. We have a tentative schedule based on what the deans provided. This is a quick schedule. January 2019 is when we're going to start the first 10 courses. It's 5 criminal justice courses, and John Chella has been great in working with us. He's already assigned his content reviewers, and we're moving along with that. The core courses are English 1301, 1302. Will Heath has assigned some people to do those. Possibly speech 1321. Government 2305. History 1301, and HUMA 1315. And James Salter has assigned someone to work with the HUMA course. Okay, but I wanted to go to our website to make sure you're familiar with it. We kind of redid it a little bit. It looks different than it did. We don't have the menu coming down from the side. There's reasons for that. This format is more adaptable to display on all handheld devices. So, you don't have to try to enlarge it to see what you want. So I think you'll find that it's easier to use on handheld devices. But the, let's see. Okay, it's showing as if it's on a handheld device for some reason. We have quick links up at the top. They used to be on the side. And I wanted you to realize that we do have faculty resources. The essential information even provides your supervisor, because you guys probably know who your supervisor is, but maybe an adjunct faculty member, especially those not here, may not know. So there's a lot of information here. But what I want to go to is the new initiatives, which is a little farther down. And we've got a couple of new initiatives going. One is the OERs, and the other is competency-based education. So we have put resources here for both of those. So rather than reading this to you or, boring you to death, I wanted you to know where these documents are so that you can get to them at your own convenience. The OER course development, come on. Okay, here we go. This just basically is a summary of what OER is and what our initiative is. One thing that you might find interesting is, and I didn't even realize this until I started working on these, the CTC library already has a list of places to go to search for OERs. So if you go to the CTC library page, down at the bottom, there's a reference to OERs, and it lists below OER Commons, OpenStax, Open Textbook Library. Now of these, I have found the last one, the Open Textbook Library, to be the most useful, but I have also found in searching these that a lot of resources come up regardless of which search engine you use. And to me, that says that maybe those are fairly good resources because they're listed under each one, okay? There's also the databases at the CTC library. Although some of those are not OERs, you have to be careful about that. We also can use films on demand from the library. Another resource is Khan Academy. I don't know if you're familiar with Khan Academy. It's been around for a long time. They used to concentrate on math, science, econ, those types of courses, but now they've expanded, and they even have some information on grammar, which I passed to Will because I thought he might be able to use that in his English 1301 course. YouTube actually has some good OERs as well. Now, if you're looking at any of these resources, check who did them, okay? I would stay away from most individually sponsored ones. I would go with government agencies, professional organizations, and things like that. Because for OERs, you don't want to develop a course and then all of a sudden all your links go away. That wouldn't be very good because then you would have to start from scratch. So do pay attention to where you're getting these resources. But for YouTube, I found that like the FBI has a channel. A lot of the government agencies have channels. If they don't have channels, they still have a lot of videos there. We still have to be ADA compliant, so make sure that the videos are closed captioned. Most of them are. But those are just some hints to when you're looking for these resources. Now, like I said before, our department, the process hasn't changed. We will still work with you. So if you don't know where to start to look for resources, we're there to help you. We'll help you figure out if things are ADA compliant, if they meet the usability requirements and so on. Okay? I got another document. Let me see if I can find it. At the same place. Identifying and using open educational resources. Okay. And one thing I want to emphasize is for the OER courses, we're still using Blackboard. We made a few minor changes to our regular template. Because we realize that some of the links may break, it doesn't matter. You can have a NASA link and something may happen and it would break. So we have built-in instructions in the course for the students and for the faculty to identify and report any broken links so that we can fix them. We can figure out what's broken and hopefully find a replacement or find out what happened. This goes into some of the different types of OERs. There are OER courses out there. I don't really recommend them because students like the fact that our Blackboard courses all kind of look alike. They have the same structure and format. When you get into OER courses, they're all different. The navigation of one is going to be totally different from the navigation of another one. Plus, you don't really have a lot of flexibility when it comes to adapting the material. In addition, the course may have been created by somebody not in Texas, and so the course description, the learning outcomes, those types of things may not correspond to what the Higher Education Coordinating Board wants. So there are courses out there, they're already done. It looks like they would be kind of easy to use, but if possible, I would recommend that you find something else instead. Textbooks. I found a lot of OER textbooks for some of the core courses. There's several out there. Criminal justice, not so much. Most of the criminal justice courses, I think, we're going to have to rely on links from government agencies and things like that. But if you're looking at an OER textbook, we do recommend that you try to find one that is online, but also downloadable, that is available in print, and some of them are even available through the app stores so that the students can download them to their devices. Now, the last two do have a cost, but it's minimal. For the App Store, it's like less than $5, and a lot of those are designed for the handheld devices, are very interactive. They have a lot of animations and things like that. The print version, I think most of them are less than $20, so that's still not a bad deal. Ensure that if there's any ebooks, that they don't require special plugins or software, because some of our students aren't allowed to do that because they're on a government network, or they may not have broadband. Maybe they're having trouble even connecting to the internet. OpenStax is one of these sources for entire books. You may have heard of OpenStax, but they're limited to mainly math, science, U.S. history, government. That's about it. So if you're not dealing with one of those courses, then we're going to have to find something else. The OpenStax books are produced by Rice University in Texas. They are vetted by experienced faculty members. The only problem with a lot of them is that the instructional resources are still in development. You may not have a test bank. You may not have some of the other stuff that you're used to from the publishers, but they're working on that. I'm finding that some of them have test banks, although they're not quite as robust as the publishers provide, while others don't have them yet. So again, it varies depending on what topic you're looking for. One thing I wanted to mention too with respect to OERs is most commercial textbooks, you're not happy with some part of them, you don't like the sequence of some of the chapters, or you feel like they didn't sufficiently cover a certain topic, well, that's going to happen with the OERs too. And so what we recommend is that you consider the fact that they will need to be supplemented. And that's where some of these other OER resources come in. You can supplement with YouTube videos, you can supplement with links to websites and so on. So I think this is a good thing, because a lot of students don't really master the content just by reading the textbook, okay? So many of our students now are used to games, are used to working on their handheld devices, Googling, watching videos and stuff like that. So I think maybe providing different types of supplements that relate to the content and present it in a different way is a good thing to engage the students and really make sure that they have a way that works for them to learn the content. Okay, like I said, you can read this yourself. I did provide in the second document some resources for you. In the criminal justice courses, I found a couple of resources that are agencies or organizations. The American Forensic Sciences had some really good stuff. There's a crime scene investigation guide, a total guide at the NFSTC. And so if you look, if you Google, then you can find some of these things. But again, just because it pops up in Google doesn't necessarily mean it's good. And that's what you as the content reviewers need to determine. Khan Academy I mentioned. There's also a YouTube channel for Khan Academy. And Goodwill has even gotten on the boat. They have what they call the Goodwill Community Foundation Global site, and it offers tutorials in computer basics, different types of software to include Microsoft Office, email and internet. There's even some tutorials on basic math, reading, workplace skills, applying for jobs, and GED prep, so you may want to check those out. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to talk about was copyright and ADA compliance. If you have any questions, my staff can help you with that to determine, whether or not they are compliant. But we had a couple of, I heard it through the grapevine. I heard that Will's people had asked about some of the ADA compliant websites. How can you determine that they are or aren't? Because most of them don't say, hey, I'm ADA compliant. Well, there are some free resources at this website right here, which you can get in this document. And it provides tools that are free that you can use to check a website to make sure that it is ADA compliant.
So, in Europe, we do things based on a contract, but let me talk to you about continental campuses. Anybody know what the tuition is for 1 semester hours at continental sites? What do we charge? $225 per semester hour, okay? We charge $225 per semester hour at the continental side for a CTC course. So there is not a lot of room. If we were putting books in there, there's not a lot of room left there. We cannot exceed $250 because beyond that the Army won't fund that. It's $250 cap. So basically the wiggle room that we have at this point is $25 per semester hour. So, at some point we may be raising our tuition to $250 and there won't be any wiggle room. A lot of other schools outside in the continental sites, they already charge $250 because they say, why not charge $250? Everybody else is doing it. This is the cap. And so certainly we have gone up over the last few years. A couple of years ago it was $200, then we went to $225, and we're certainly considering $250. So, and in Europe it's a contract. I don't know what the rate is. I think they are already at the $250. So just consider, something where you say here, okay, maybe we go up, I don't know, from $90 a semester hour to $100. What we are doing as far as books or OERs or whatever learning resources we use, we would want to do across the world. So because the tuition is different, this would pose some problems.
Dr. Ady, does University of Maryland have the same cap?
No. Yes, all schools have the same cap.
That's all.
Yeah, Army tuition assistance is, $250 cap, and it doesn't really matter where you are. Now, if you operate in Europe under a contract, it may be a little bit different, but I think Europe is at $250, and at the continental sides, I mean everything from East Coast, West Coast, Hawaii, Alaska, and anywhere else where we are. In the continental U.S., we charge $225 a semester hour.
For the Navy, some of you have been involved in adapting courses for the Navy. These are the multimedia courses that are self-standing. They don't require internet access. Right now, the plan is to keep them as they are, but as you're looking for OERs, if you can find an OER that is downloadable and available in print version, that would work for the Navy students, because a lot of the Navy students now can download before they go on board the ships or the submarines. So that would be the ideal situation if you could find something that is downloadable or available in print, okay? And that's all I have. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me, okay? Sharon Davis. My extension is 1346.